Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to our fifth and final session of the Community of Practice for Strengthening Support for Children with Learning Differences. My colleague Mercy is here with me today, and we are just letting people in. In the meantime, I think I can just quickly get started as people are also coming in. So as I mentioned, this is our fifth and final session, and we are going to be finally talking about a topic that has come up consistently across all of the previous four sessions as well, which is caregiver and community engagement and stigma reduction. And in today's session, we have with us our colleagues from Africa Dyslexia Organization, who are, of course, experts in this topic. We have Rosalind, who's the founder and executive director of Africa Dyslexia Organization, and Justina, who's the inclusion lead at Africa Dyslexia Organization. And with them, we are so privileged today to be joined by Ms. Dorcas, who is a CEO by day and a super mom and caregiver to a child with dyslexia. I will tell you more about them shortly and provide more details as we go into a discussion with them in a little bit later in the session. Today, not only are we going to be talking about caregiver, community engagement, and stigma reduction, but in the second part of the session, we are also going to be going a little bit deeper into what the community needs, which is what you need from us, and how we can co-create this together. So before we begin, a quick check-in to just make sure everyone's feeling good and everyone's feeling okay. And if you're not, we hope that by the end of the session you do. Please in the chat again, if you could write your name, organization, the part of the world you're joining us from, and how you're feeling today on a Snoopy scale. I'm, of course, a very obvious 9 right now because I'm on my laptop, but very excited to go to a 6 when I go into the discussion with Rosalind, Justina, and Ms. Dorcas. My colleague Mercy will drop in this question and this image, so please keep your reactions coming in. In the meantime, I'm just going to walk through a couple of few guidelines. This session is being recorded. As always, this is a safe space to share your opinions and experiences. Please raise a hand or drop in questions in the chat. Use virtual reactions to engage. We'd, of course, love your full attention if possible. Do switch off from other tasks. And if possible, do turn on your camera so we can see your lovely faces and we can engage with each other better. Ask questions freely, appreciate each other's ideas, comments on what the peers are saying. And please, of course, feel free to share your contact information if you want to connect with anyone here. I already mentioned that today we are going to be speaking with Africa Dyslexia Organization. And in the next 90 minutes, we are going to learn more about strategies for combating stigma and for engaging caregivers. A little bit about the agenda for today. I'm going to tell you, for those of you who may not know GSF, I'm going to tell you a little bit about GSF, why we are here today, about the community of practice and how it came about. We are then going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes learning about caregiver engagement and stigma reduction. In the latter half of the session, we are going to go deeper into the themes that have come up as a part of the CoP, what we have heard from you as a part of this, and how we can go further and co-create the next steps and what is the most beneficial for the community. I hope that all sounds good. I'm just going to take a minute to see. Hi, Aura, lovely to meet you. Please tell us how you're feeling on the Snoopy mood scale as well. To begin with, if there are people who haven't joined us in the past, and this is the first session, a little bit about Global Schools Forum. GSF is a collaborative community, an innovation accelerator, and a partnership builder for non-state organizations working to improve education at scale for underserved children in low and middle income countries. Since our establishment in 2017, we have grown our community to 177 organizations spanning 71 countries, collectively running or supporting over 1.38 million schools and centers, and providing education to more than 134.5 million children. The organizations in GSF's community are standalone schools, a diverse set of school networks and ECD centers, and organizations providing core support services to non-state schools and to government education systems. I just want to now move on to why we are all here today. Essentially, GSF and Oak Foundation are working together on a scoping study to understand the scope and the space of learning differences. As you know, 9 of 10 children with disabilities under the age of 5 live in low and middle income countries. But most of our education systems are struggling to provide quality support to children. And there are so many organizations and many of you who are working specifically with children with learning differences, but we don't have enough information of the organizations that are doing this work. So the scope of this project is essentially very simple. We have two simple objectives. One, to identify the priorities, needs, and challenges of the organizations in LMICs that are working to support children with learning differences. And two, we want to explore how GSF can support you all better. We are going to be doing a little bit of both in our session today. Based on what we heard from the community, and we have gone back to a lot of you one-on-one, we have done focus group discussions and the COPs, we created a 5-part community of practice where we began in the first session by discussing screening and diagnosis tools. We then moved on to teacher training and classroom support models for inclusive education, followed by inclusive curricula and assessments, where we learned about UDL strategies, use of Washington Group questionnaires, and the use of assessments to help create inclusive classrooms. In the last session, we spoke about differentiated instruction and inclusive pedagogy, where we spoke about phonics and the learner variability navigator. Today, we will speak about caregiver and community engagement and stigma reduction. Before we jump in and before I start our discussion, I would like to begin by a quick storytelling session where I think we can get to know each other better. We are not trying to do, we are not doing breakouts, we are not doing a Mentimeter. We just want us all to be open and to share with each other. I'll request Mercy to please drop in these questions in the chat so that I can stop sharing and we can see each other. If you could raise your hand, unmute, or drop in your chat and tell us from your personal experience or your surroundings or the work in your organizations, what is the most interesting myth or superstition that you have heard about learning differences? And one biggest challenge that you have faced in engaging caregivers in communities in your context. I'm going to keep it open to all. Mercy, thanks, Mercy. Mercy has dropped. Abigail's a 9 on Snoopy scale. Sorry, I'm just going back. Please feel free to unmute yourself, drop it in the chat. Tell us what's the most interesting myth or superstition that you've heard and one biggest challenge that you've faced in engaging caregivers. Justina is also a 9. That's great. All of us are 9s today. Dyslexia is for the rich people. That's certainly a big myth. That this is a result of anger from the gods. I was expecting this one. I think that's a very common one across. Thank you, Aura. And any challenge that you have faced? Dyslexia cannot be cured. Dyslexia is a result of what the mother ate during pregnancy. Spirit children in Ghana, disability the result of evil spirits. Also that it's genetic. Hi, Innocent, please go ahead. Prayers will cure it. Hi, Innocent.
Yes, thank you so much. Maybe just to break the ice, I know that we're a quiet group today. But yeah,
Yes.
I think to answer the first question, I think one of the things that I've also noted, even growing up, is the issue of seeing disability as a curse. Like, a lot of superstition in the villages that maybe the parents did this or the grandparents were like this. And that also now builds a challenge on or a barrier on the parents or the caregivers in that they are not open to share, the issue with their communities or even with their own relatives because they feel like they'll be judged or there'll be code names. So they're not able to open up for fear of being judged or being labeled as somebody who did something wrong in the past. Yeah, but also in the church, for the faith community, they also look at it as something that you have done as a sin that you
Yeah.
committed that you did not, seek forgiveness for, and that it's following you. So those are some of the things that I can share. Thank you.
Thanks, Innocent. No, absolutely. And I think that is one of the key things we are going to be discussing today as well. And even in like a slightly smaller group, just amongst us, there are so many myths that have already come up. The caregivers don't, I mean, it's a problem for doctors to solve. It's seen as a stigma for the family. There's so much even in this small group, and it just goes to say the kind of myths that are surrounding this very problem that we are not able to make people aware enough to make them understand. And I think someone also mentioned that the biggest challenge is that telling people that everybody can support and help. And I think we are going to go into that a little bit more today. With that, I am going to quickly introduce Rosalind, Justina, and Ms. Dawkins today. I know I just mentioned them briefly, and then we are going to go into some Q&A. We are doing a slightly different format today, just the questions that people had around community awareness and stigma reduction is something I'm going to pose to them. And with their vast experiences in their work with Africa Dyslexia Organization and their past experiences, they will help us understand the space better, understand the roots of stigma better, and give us strategies to deal with it. So to begin with, we have Rosalind, who's the founder and executive director of Africa Dyslexia Organization. She's a transformative advocate for dyslexic individuals and those with related learning differences across Africa. She is dedicated to reshaping education and career pathways for individuals with learning differences. Rosalind is a dyslexic herself and did not start reading and writing until the age of 17, a personal journey that fuels her mission to drive systemic change, ensuring learners have access to the necessary tools for academic and professional success. Beyond her advocacy work, Rosalind is the lead hospitality consultant at IQ Monday and serves as the country representative for the Swiss Education Group in Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. She holds an MSc in International Hospitality Management from the Swiss Hotel Management School. So clearly, she wears many, many hats. Justina is the inclusion lead at Africa Dyslexia Organization. She's a seasoned special education needs and disability called SEND, an inclusion specialist with over 20 years experience in advancing inclusive education in the UK and Africa. At the Africa Dyslexia Organization, she leads advocacy for neurodivergent learners, driving stigma reduction and equitable learning environments. A former head teacher and strategic SEND lead in London, she developed trauma-informed curricula, chaired multi-agency panels, and strengthened statutory SEND processes. Her consultancy work also supports educators, parents, and systems globally to build responsive, inclusive education frameworks. So you know you're in great hands today. And last but not the least, we have Ms. Dawkins, the CEO of Azure Ventures, overseeing the distribution of Royal Atlantic tuna in a multifaceted individual with diverse talents and a heart for community service. Beyond her corporate role, she is a seasoned singer and a child coach, bringing over a decade of experience in training and nurturing children aged 4 to 12 within her community. She's a proud mother of a dyslexic child. She finds fulfillment in sharing her experience and insights through her journey. She seeks to offer support and guidance to fellow parents navigating similar challenges. Her commitment to both her professional endeavors and her advocacy for parents of dyslexic children reflects her dedication to making a positive impact in both her business and in the personal spheres of life. So grateful to have you all here today. I'm going to hand it over to Rosalind to quickly just tell us about the work that you're doing and about the organization before I go into the specific questions that I have for you.
Thank you so much. And hello, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. We are so thrilled to be here with you and also to be part of this community. As we were rightly introduced, we're from the Africa Dyslexia Organization. We are based in Ghana. Our organization was funded under just the same mission as what we have been going through the past like 5 months or 4 months, doing different series on learning difference. I am dyslexic, and to be honest with you, I never got any support whilst growing up. I was called so many names as to some of the things you wrote in the chat. And in 2016, I got diagnosed with dyslexia. And that was where I felt like, why is it that I had to go through all my life for me to discover to be dyslexic in my 30s? And also really looking on the continent of Africa and seeing that not much is happening when it comes to dyslexia and related learning difference. Children are not being receiving support. So we started the Africa Dyslexia Organization to create awareness, advocacy at the government level, and also provide teacher training. So when we believe that when teachers are equipped, they will be able to support our learners. And that is what we have been doing for the past 5 years. So we work with schools, we work with governments, we work with parents, we work with our dyslexic students through mentorship programs as well. And we have different initiatives from the Africa Dyslexia Advocates Fellowship Program to our teacher fellowship to the Africa Dyslexia Forum, now the Africa Dyslexia Conference, which is happening next week. And so we have a lot of programs that we do, and we would love to work with all the organizations here that you are interested in the subject of dyslexia and related learning difference. We believe we're doing something great, and we'll be able to collaborate together and help those children that usually we forget them when we even bring programs that we think that are supporting all learners. Trust me, students like me, it takes an extra layer of effort, and that is where we come in to provide that support. So we thank you so much for inviting us to share about us today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rosalind, and it's our privilege to have you here. I would like to kick off and learn more about the work that you're doing. But my first question to set the context would be to Ms. Dorcas. Ms. Dorcas, could you share your experience of when you discovered that your child was dyslexic? How did you find out, and how has it affected your family and your child's experience in school?
Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this great team. I'm Dorcas, as you said, and I have a daughter who is now 15 years old. She is dyslexic. We got to know about her condition. She was diagnosed at age 9, but at age 6, we realized as a normal child, you should be able to spell certain words, you should be able to read or write certain words. But when she was 6 years, we weren't seeing anything of that sort. And we not knowing anything about dyslexic, we thought she is not pushing harder, she is not learning. We did our best. We tried to help her. We managed with her until she got to age 9, when we realized, no, this is becoming serious. And one of her teachers recommended we get her checked. So we took her to a neurologist who assessed her and diagnosed her. So that was where we got to know she has dyslexia. We had no knowledge about dyslexia. But God being so good, we met Rosalind, and she has been of great help. She supported us. Through her, we met some people who have been helping her. But for me, apart from teachers or people who have knowledge in dyslexia, who helps these dyslexics, I think as a parent, we also have to do our parts. And that is what I do. At home, we don't laugh at her. Yes, she makes the mistakes. We make sure she reads. When she makes mistakes, no one laughs at her. We try our best to make her feel at home. And even her younger siblings have accepted her condition. They also help her at home. When she comes home with homework, she's not able to read, she's not able to do her assignments. Her younger siblings have been helping her. We don't laugh at her. We show her so much love at home. You know, in school, she went through a lot. She would be laughed at, children would be mocking at her, that made her coil herself and all that. But when she got to know about dyslexia, she also read about it. She accepted her condition. Okay, this is me. This is who I am. I can't do anything. I can't change it, but I will try my best. I will do what I can do best. That is what has been keeping her. Apart from not being able to read well, it's better now. It's better than before. But even though she can't read well, having bad handwriting, she's able to do other things. She has strengths. And we have also held on to that. We help her to do what she can do better: painting, drawing, or let's say playing the piano. She likes dancing. She is a good leader. I can leave her at home and she will take care of the children. She will cook for them. At 15 years, she can cook, she can take care of the house. So if she's not able to read or write or spell, it doesn't mean she can't do anything. So for us at home, we try to support her to be of herself. Thank you.
That is so wonderful. And the fact that you said that she actually read about it and she accepted it, I think that goes to say a lot about your parenting to give her that confidence to accept herself. And I think that's the most important role that you're playing. She sounds like such a wonderful young woman, and I'm sure she will do so well in life. Thank you for laying the ground for us for our next questions. My next question is to Justina. I just wanted to understand in the 20 years of work you've done, what are some of the most common sources of stigma that you've seen around learning differences? We heard so much from what our community members said, but just what are the roots and what are some of the common sources that you have seen?
Hi, thank you for that question. So I think one of the biggest sources of stigma lies around fear. And so for a lot of families, they are fearful for their child and fearful for what life is going to look like for their child with this label and this identification of dyslexia. And we also have real issues around religion and faith and how that interplays. You know, so many families see any kind of neurodivergence as, you know, a curse or something really negative within their understanding of what their faith says to them. So they spend a lot of time wanting these things to be prayed away or to be delivered away. And so that has a huge, huge influence on how parents receive that information and how they then support their children to receive that information. There's a grieving process that comes with it in parents having to accept that what they had envisioned, what they had dreamed, what they had planned for their children may not look exactly like that, and there may be a difference. And then also parents having to deal a lot with shame and the concept of shame in that their child is different, their child is perceived as not as good as other children. Within the African context, we really value academic achievements, you know, and I'm sure it's probably within other contexts as well, but I'll just speak to Africa because that's what I know. So because we put so much emphasis on academic achievements, you know, we still publicly publish exam results so that everybody can see who was the top of the class, who was the top of the year, who was the best student in the school. And if your child isn't able to come home with those kind of accolades, then it can have a real impact on how you perceive yourself as a parent, but also how you perceive your child and the relationship you have with your child. So I would say some of the biggest areas of stigma lie around religion and faith, the concept of fear, the concept of shame, and the fact that our education system really is shaped and geared towards those who can pass standardized assessments and pass them well with good grades, and doesn't really allow for children who learn differently and so will be able to show their strength and their talents in a different way other than a standardized test result.
Thanks, Justina. And I think completely agree. I relate so hard to this, even in the Indian context. It's always about those test results and how well a child is doing in class. I don't think the systems have evolved as much to be inclusive and to see that there are different kinds of milestones and different kinds of achievements. So I think I'm sure a lot of people in this group would also be relating. And on the same lines, just to both Rosalind and Justina, just 2, 3 key strategies that you have used to reduce stigma, to challenge it, and to engage the communities.
Okay. So one of the things that we do a lot around awareness raising. So getting people to understand exactly what is dyslexia and related learning differences. Because there is so much fear that's around, people hear the term and they kind of just don't want anything to do with it. They want to run away from it. But breaking that down and demystifying that and getting them to realize that actually, your child is not broken. Your child is not less than. Your child learns differently, and with the right support tools, they can have a very successful experience. So we do a lot around awareness raising, so parent workshops to talk through, what the challenges look like, what the support is available, but also encouraging parents about their own self-care and the importance of making sure that they are okay in order to support their children. So we have done a lot of that work over the years in trying to just break down some of that stigma. Rosalind, do you want to talk about some of the schoolwork we do? Sure. I think you're muted.
Thank you. And also some of the initiatives we do is, and even awareness, aside the workshops that we do, we use the media a lot. And so we fall onto both traditional and modern media. That means TV, radio, especially TV and radio, because they carry the message to the masses. And so what we did really well in the beginning stage, and we still do till date, is we engage and form partners with the media because they will carry the message. And there hasn't been any single time that we've been on radio or TV that they will open the phone line and you will not have more than 5 people call in and be like, I recognize this. I recognize what you're saying. I thought my child is not serious. I'm beating my child at home. And I wish doctors would have said that before the diagnosis, they were actually beating my little girl at home. I wish she would have said that. And so this is the power of media. And when parents hear it, or even some teachers, when they hear that information, they'll be like, oh, so the children in my classroom may be struggling with some form of learning difference. Then the moment the level of empathy starts to come in and it starts to orient the mindset and change. Then we go a step further through the awareness is we started the Africa Dyslexia Advocacy Program. Because we operate in Ghana and we also want our presence and impact to be on the continent, but with limited resource, we came up with this advocacy program where we train passionate individuals across the continent in 2 to 3 months about all levels. From we start overview of learning differences, and then we break it down. We give them strategies to create awareness in school, to engage school ministries of education, to engage parents, to engage workplaces. And they go on the ground. So they serve as our grassroots advocates in different countries. And currently they are in 38 African countries that create awareness on daily basis. Some are writing articles in newspapers, some are creating articles online, some are going in schools to create awareness to teachers and also students. Because what it is students, because they don't know what is happening to their colleague, when there is issue of spell me this word and the child make a mistake, then everybody is teasing. And that alone kills the self-esteem of a child. And so it's important that we create that awareness as well to reach the students so they understand. So we do that as well. Then the other side is teacher training. We believe, listen, you can go and find all the funding right now and say that let's pick some countries in Africa. Let's conduct screening. Let's get all the students that are not reading or that are not doing well in the academics, mathematics, whatever. And you finish and you have the results. So what? What is the next steps? Teachers generally, World Bank research 2022 says that about 70% of children at the age of 10 in sub-Saharan Africa, and I'm sure other parts of the world also have some statistics like this, cannot even read and understand a simple test. And so, yes, we have the research, but what are we doing? It boils down to teacher training. Are our teachers equipped enough to be able to teach a child for the child to know? Because if you're not teaching a child properly, let's just come to dyslexia, and we go and start screening or conducting assessments right now, we will mislabel a lot of people who may not necessarily be struggling with dyslexia. And so we say that let's train teachers, and one of the way we do is equip them to know how to teach. And once you know how to teach, go back and teach your students 3 months, 6 months. Let's see if what you have learned is working. If it's not, and the child is still struggling, we will then go to the next stage. But within this training, the teachers are taught how to do screening, to profile the learners and know what level all their students are and see what they can support them. So they know the idea of screening as well. So that's why we are heavily invested on teacher training. Then the other thing is also engaging schools, the head of the schools, the management of the schools. Because when you pull up training, teachers will come for it. But when they go back into the school and their management is not buying into it, they don't get the support they need to implement the changes they want to do. So we engage school leaders as well. And within school leaders, we also have a program which is our inclusive audits, which we just came up with. We're piloting it in 5 schools now. But the goal of the inclusive audit is to look at a school in a 360 way as to where is the school presently, and it's focused on learning difference. In terms of inclusion, are your teachers trained? What are your policies? Do you have resources to support your student? What are those resources? And after that, we look at what gaps are within that we could give recommendations and strategies. And we work with the school to make sure we get them to the point where they want to be. Then the other side is parents, engaging with parents, because most time parents think like, oh, my child has to do well, and it is the responsibility of the school alone. No, it is not. It's a partnership. And so we get parents to the point where they understand that I need to be my child's #1 advocate. I need to know what learning differences are, because I need to study the science around what my child is doing. And then I take the message to the school and work with the school to get my child from point A to point B. And so we do that as well. And then the other side, I think I've gone through all of is also, when we started this work, we were not having people who, like, because we are in Africa, representation matters. Because when you Google people with learning difference around the world and just segment it to dyslexia, all you would see is a type of race that they have been able to put their information out there for people to know that, oh, this person like Richard Branson is dyslexic, Albert Einstein is dyslexic, and all that. And at a point, a parent asked me, oh, is dyslexia for white people only? And so that sets us on a journey to look for adults with dyslexia to start sharing their messages. And we were lucky enough that we got some people that are very well known in Ghana and Africa to start sharing their story. So that became also a way that when you get the attention of parents and you start talking and you show them a video of somebody who has said A, B, and C, that, oh, I'm also dyslexic, then they are now like, oh, okay, so it's not a disease, it's not an illness. I can support my child and I can work to you. So we have so many ways that strategies we use to help combat stigma in the work that we do. I don't know if Justina, you have something to add to that.
No, you covered it beautifully. Yeah.
Thanks, Rosalind. Thanks, Justina. That's really helpful. And I think these strategies are something that I think everyone present here is looking to work towards more awareness and stigma reduction can work. And of course, if any of you have any questions about how you can start off, I'm sure Rosalind and Justina will be more than happy to support you in that. These are all strategies that I do think we can all go and implement, as hard as it might be. I had a question on local leaders, but I think you pretty much covered it when you were also talking about like the school principals and parents and teachers. So I'm just going to, and there are a lot of questions in the chat that I want to come to. So before wrap up this particular section, I would just like to go back to Ms. Dawkins and ask her one advice that she would give to other caregivers and parents supporting children with learning differences.
Okay, Rosalind will agree with me. Anytime I'm being asked this question, all I say is, let's love them. Because when they go out there, they are being laughed at. People are mocking them. And when they come home too, you are going to maltreat them or say a lot of things to discourage them. So my number one thing is love. We need to love them more. Let's help them. As she has accepted her condition, we should also see her as a normal person. There's no discrimination. Every child is treated equally in my home. So we should treat all our children equally, whether they are good at reading or not. And also in my home, we help each other. One thing that has helped my daughter a lot is every morning we have a morning devotion at home. She's the only one who reads the Bible. And if she makes any mistake, everybody, even the 7-year-old boy, is willing to help her. If he sees that she's struggling to mention a word, oh, hold on, where are you? Let me have a look at it. He would help her to mention the word. So in my home, we don't laugh at her. We are always ready to support her. And she's okay. Hey, Angel, spell this word for me. And he would gladly say that. He would gladly spell it. So first thing, we have to accept her and then love her. Just like we love all the children, no discrimination.
Thank you so much. So acceptance and love, the two key points. Thank you. And I'm sure everyone resonates with that. That's such a wonderful message. Really grateful that you're here today. I would like to pick up some questions from the audience. In fact, the first one is directed to Ms. Dawkins, which is what kind of learning aids or devices or tools have been helpful since the diagnosis of your daughter, if any that you have used or any that were recommended by the neurologist?
One challenge I face with my daughter is she has rejected, she doesn't want anybody to help her. She wants to be on her own. Even Rosalind knows that. She has spoken to her several times, but if anyone comes to help her with any tool, she says, no, I'm fine. I want to learn on my own. So that's the challenge we have with her. Notwithstanding that, she's doing better. And now she has completed basic education. She went through the grades without any repetition. She's now, okay, she just completed grade 9, waiting for her results. Then she would move on to senior high school. Yeah.
Thank you. Rosalind, there's a question for you in the chat. What mechanisms do you have in place or have found to be effective to track changes in attitudes, practices, or inclusive behaviors in learners, parents, teachers, and leaders? And what indicators have you found most meaningful? How do you use them in schools? This is from Innocent. It's in the chat.
Okay. I think this, Justina and I both would try it. So for us, because a lot of our trainees, usually the schools are the one who sign up the teachers. So we do get the buy-in of the school leaders. So I'll give you an example. With our upcoming conference next week, we are giving slots, how many? 80 slots to schools, public schools, and under-resourced private schools. So they are not paying anything to come. But how the selection was made was we went to the district education office, gave this to them. They approached 10 schools to select these teachers from, because we want to have a tracking mechanism. And so these teachers are going to come to the conference, benefit from the conference and the training workshops. Once they go back, it doesn't end there. They will take our feedback form after they have finished the program. And then once they come back to school and implement it after 3 months, we're reaching out to the management to know what have you seen in your teachers, first of all, in terms of attitude and their approach towards teaching as well. We get that feedback from the school. And then I'll go to the teacher and ask, how has what you learned previously supported your profession? How has it helped your students? And what are the challenges you're facing? And what can we do to make it more easier for you? And then they provide that feedback. So by the time we receive all these feedback and we analyze, we then know what is working and what is not working. Most of the time, attitude, 100%, it changes. Their mindset change. Where the challenge is most of these schools, which is public schools, under-resourced private schools, the teachers have too many students in the classroom. The class size is high, and they have a lot of students who are also behind their learning. And so being able to juggle finishing their syllabus versus supporting students and making sure all their students are on a page becomes an issue. So this is where we pick the ins and be able to know what next projects we are going to be working on. So this is how we track. Now, another way that you might not be like a tracking system for you, but we know it's a tracking system, is at the beginning, our first 2 forums that were physical, we never charge anything for it. All schools come in, receive, mostly we target head of schools. They receive information, whatever they need, and then go back. But when we have a training, we put a cost to it. And now some of the cost is not like making money cost, but just for us to see how people see the work we're doing to be important and how it's going to benefit them. And people rush for the trainings just like this, which are the school leaders for their teachers. So that means you can see that whatever they are gaining is working, and that is why they want to reinvest in their teachers. So that is also one way that we know. And of course, the feedbacks where students are actually getting the support they need. Those feedbacks is our success story, that we know that it is working. Justina, is there anything you can add?
No, you've covered all of it. It is the feedback. It's also looking at the engagement. When we have the feedback from parents, and parents are sharing, the impact of the awareness raising, but also the interventions that have been provided in schools where their children are attending schools where school leaders have been committed to professional development. Those anecdotal experiences also help to shape how we deliver within the community. Rosalind mentioned earlier on the audit. That's a quality assurance process that we have introduced that gives a very targeted and intentional lens in looking at how has the work progressed, where are schools at, what are school leaders planning for in terms of upskilling their staff, and how that is going to be measured and how that feeds into future development. So all of the things that Rosalind has mentioned are all play a part in giving us great insight and measuring tools. But people vote with their feet, essentially, and it's about attendance, it's about engagement, it's about the societal conversations. Dyslexia is no longer a foreign word in many African contexts. People are not struggling to know what that is. They've heard of it. They know how it presents. They know how the support can be, and so those have all been really good measuring tools in terms of the engagement with us as an organization.
Thank you. Thanks, Rosalind. Thanks, Justina. There are also a few questions. If you want to answer them in the chat, that would be quite useful as well. I'm just going to use the next 5 minutes to get everyone's opinions on how they related to what they heard today. If you could let me know. We're not going to go into a breakout, but Mercy is also going to drop these questions in the chat. But just from what you heard from Ms. Dawkins, Justina, and Rosalind today, please do tell us whether you have similar experiences. It feels like our experiences are quite uniform. So how does this reflect in what you see in your surroundings? And how do you think we can work together to reduce stigma? And what support do you think you need to make this happen? If you could just put it in the chat or unmute and speak, please feel free to go ahead and do that. I'll give you a minute or two to just think about this, and then please engage with us in the chat. I'll ask Mercy to drop this in the chat so that we can again see each other. Please go for it, Kiaze, and then Innocent.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank our colleagues, Bola and Rosalind, for the wonderful sharing. I think today's sharing is one of the sharing that I've also liked, and in terms of bringing us to the perspective of the caregivers and the community engagement. It's something that has come from people who have gone through some experience of having even a child. So in our regard, in terms of looking at how our experience in our communities, that's why I've been so active in putting up some questions and asking. One of the challenges we always find in the communities as we are looking at engaging the community vis-a-vis children with learning differences is the high expectations from the parents. When you reach in this family, there is very high expectations, and sometimes you cannot really reach all the expectations. Others see you as a savior who has come either to take away the child from them, as if the child has been a burden to the parent. Others see the support you want to provide as support that can be spread over to other children without the learning differences. And we find that always sometimes strange. But in this regard, our experience, it is really very important. We have always worked with the gatekeepers in the community to identify and map out these children who are with the learning differences in the community. So we use the local leaders, we use our community education volunteers, and then we see how we can support. But they have brought in a very wonderful concept that we are looking at. As much as we are bringing up these children, our main goal is to see that these children can get involved in the learnings in the school environment. That's very critical, because every child, as they are talking about the independence of the child, independence comes with learning. It may not be the usual learning that we are talking about, the child learning about photosynthesis, but the child can learn certain behaviors, certain experiences that may make the child to be able to know how to tame the environment within still the school learning environment. And one of the things I wanted to hear from the team is when it comes, how can we work together to reduce the stigma? I think the involvement of parents, they have talked about it, but also the involvement of, we call them gatekeepers or stakeholders, people who take decisions in the community, in the schools, at the district level. When you don't involve those people, because they are the ones who budget, they are the ones who do everything, that because even we talked about identifying gaps in the schools, you'll identify the gaps in the schools, but if those stakeholders are not involved to see that they can work towards bridging up those gaps, because some of the gaps you may find is either capacity building, others are resources, others are materials needed in the school to see that these learners can learn. So the need for bringing on board the stakeholders is one of the key. And how can we work together? It's already that we already working together as a team. I would think this community of practice should be something that we should continue with. But the issue of always making sure that we map out to these learners, yeah, and then we can come up with the communities of practice framework or communities of practice module, that a module that can be looked at for the parents, for the caregivers, and then we see how these caregivers can also be given confidence on making sure that they continue supporting these learners. It is something that we need to work out together as the experts, as different people in the field, so that we can support our children. But in general, I want to thank Rosalind and the team for the wonderful work and presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Kazi. And I think a great idea on the communities of practice manual for parents as well. And I know that Building Tomorrow also has such manuals for the community. So would love to work with you to develop something there. Innocent, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and also just to applaud Dorcas for the courage to share with us real experience with her daughter. I think it's not easy to share that, and it has unlocked a lot. And also linking to what the team from Africa Dyslexia have shared, I think they have shared so many strategies that we can also learn from and also adapt in our context. As for Link, we are implementing projects on inclusive education, particularly looking at learners that are already in school to ensure that they are actually learning. So one of the things that we have done, we are working through community champions. We have trained the mother groups, school management committees, and parent-teacher associations through the district officials. These are the child protection workers, the primary education advisors, and so that because they are the ones that are on the ground, cost effectiveness as well. So I think one of the things that we have learned there from you is the issue of sharing, of finding parents who can share, like Dorcas, within our project, but also within the communities themselves, so that they can now build what my colleague from Building Tomorrow was sharing about communities of practice, so that parents can come together and share. And in that way, they'll open up more opportunities for others to even come out of their shells and fear. Because stigma is one that resonates, I think, with all the contexts. So in that regard, in terms of what support we may need, I would be grateful if I can see the tool that Africa Dyslexia uses for engaging in these dialogues with parents. I think it'll be good to see that tool that they use, or any other tools that they use from the strategies that they have shared with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Innocent. That's really great to hear. I'm so glad that you have so much to take away from the conversation that we had today. We will continue this collaboration, which we're going to come to in just a second. I'm going to give 1 more minute for anybody else who might want to share before we jump into the second part of this session today. Anybody else who wants to share about how they related and how we can collectively help combat stigma?
If I could,
Yes, please, Aura.
yes. Thank you very much. I just wanted to indicate that as we seek for more incorporation, we should also attempt to not focus on those that are affected. Instead, focus on what we may term as the larger group of the people. Yes, because then there mustn't be a line that must be drawn because of that condition. Instead, there must be an understanding that both parties, both those that have dyslexia and those that don't have, should actually come to a common ground to know that this is the reality that is there, and none of the two conditions are, for the lack of a better term, normal. So we all have different conditions that affect us differently, and so there must be a high level of acceptance. And that's why in the chat I was asking whether there is a group here in Zambia, because certainly I would be intimated to be part of people that could be oriented or trained and then go ahead and advocate for this. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Aura. And I'll put you in touch with Rosalind and Justina after, and then if there is a group in Zambia or if there's something you want to do together, that would be super useful. Again, I would just like to thank Rosalind, Justina, and Ms. Dorcas. In case, I know that Abigail and Aura have filled the poll, but in case there are the others who couldn't access the poll, I've relaunched it again, and there's also a QR code if you could just fill that in before dropping it. As next step, and I'm really sorry that we've gone overboard, but this was really important for us so that we could come back to you on concrete next steps. So it was extremely important that we are able to hear what you really need and what we can do. And with everything that you have shared with us today and some really great points and key takeaways for us as well, we will come back to you in the next couple of weeks. And I think Abigail, Innocent, Kazi, of course, we've been speaking to Olivia, Vincent, Sarafina. We will reach out to you separately as well to see what we can do better and how we can take this forward. Just wait for us to get back to you. Taken note on Innocent's point on this summary. I will share a key takeaways document across all the COPs. We have created an Airtable where we have collected all of the tools that were discussed over the last 5 sessions. And also it will be an editable tool, so you will be able to put in anything that you have that you think will be useful for the community. But right from like UDL, Dora, Magic Book, Washington Group questionnaire, we have everything in that Airtable that we will share with you and will be open access. And of course, contacts of people you can reach out to if there's anything you want to know more about the tools. So that said, I thank you, everyone. Please feel free to drop off if you're done with the poll, and I will get back in touch with you and keep you apprised on the next steps. Thank you so much. So grateful for your time.